Hello and welcome to Outlook on Air. This podcast is designed to keep you connected with all things Outlook, with special emphasis on our enrichment program and its many activities and services. On this podcast, we'll hear from Outlook associates, donors to our many programs, clients of our services, and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this edition of Outlook on Air. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Outlook on Air from the Palatial Podcast Studio here at Outlook in Richmond as we begin a brand new year of podcasting. Here's hoping that each and every one of you had a very pleasant holiday season. Now we're back in business, and we're going to continue where we left off with our last podcast. Our last podcast in December of 2025 was a tech podcast, and we're going to continue with another tech podcast this month because I want to expand a bit on AI and all of its many forms and different ways that folks use it and all that sort of thing. We're going to do some of that here today. And to get us started, I want to introduce you to a guy who I really admire and enjoy, and probably one of his biggest fans. His name is Fred, and he's with AI JINGLEMAKER.com. That's his website. And he is the guy that is actually behind the many jingles that you hear us use on our podcast from time to time. And he's going to stop by and tell us a little bit about how all that works and how AI plays an important part in making all of that work. Fred, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us how in the world you got into the world of this AI music creation stuff.
First of all, let me give you my age. I'm 51. Last year I said, I used to say I was 50, but now, I'm 51. I'm well into the 50s. So originally, I graduated as an interpreter, English and Russian to French. That was my field of studies. But I was already a radio DJ, like an amateur radio DJ, when I was at uni, and even before uni, when I was a teenager. Mostly on commercial radio in Belgium, in various stations. But I was well before the days of AI. At that time, we weren't even speaking about AI. When I started uni, there was not even an internet connection at home. So it was like, the dinosaur time. But that's how I started in audio now more than 35 years ago. But my work has been mainly in sales and marketing, digital sales and marketing in various capacities. There was an audio period, I would say, in my life when I was selling logos and ringtones for Nokia phones and Siemens phones in the early days of mobile phones in the early 2000s. So there was also an audio component to it. The ringtones, but there was no AI to create them. You had to really ask someone to create those ringtones for you at that time. And then, as I said, many things in the field of digital sales and marketing. Also, in music, I was a record producer at some point. I had a record label, so I produced a few rock bands, mainly, including one here in the UK called the Boxer Rebellion. I had music venues in Belgium, so I was the not the owner, but I was running music venues for a few years in Belgium. It was when I was also producing bands, and for 2 years I had a circus also. So that was also part of my journey. And then I moved to London and refocused on digital sales and marketing for startups, for scale-ups. I'm basically working on my own from home. And the connection with AI happened by accident, I would say. In September 2022, I had some time between two gigs, and I dived into coding. So Python mainly, watching videos on YouTube like the kids do, and I learned how to code in Python. And it happened that a few weeks after I started my journey into coding, came the API of OpenAI and the release of the public API. And so then I started using AI to code, to develop some stuff. Originally, mainly applications on my computer just for me, for my practice, for my work. And then gradually I had this idea of developing what we can call a micro SaaS, so like a small project, if you want, a small web app. And the first iteration, the first version of the AI JINGLEMAKER was released in May 2023, but it was just a single page. You couldn't even pick the sound for the intro, background, or the outro. It was the same for everyone, basically. You just gave the name of your radio station or of your podcast, and it was producing one single version with the same intro, the same background, the same outro. And some people started using it. I would just, sharing that with some friends and also on some social networks, and some people started using it. And after the summer of 2023, I decided to create a real app, like what we call a multi-tenant application, so that people could sign up, log in, where they could also enter their own text and pick among a long selection of intros, backgrounds and outros to create their jingles. And then it all started, I would say, in September 23. So it's been roughly 2 years now since I started the AI JINGLEMAKER.
Pretty amazing website and pretty amazing application that you have. Maybe we should back up a little bit for the benefit of some of our listeners who may not even know what AI is. Artificial intelligence, of course, is what the initials stand for, but can you maybe take a moment and define what artificial intelligence is and AI, that sort of thing?
So when we think about artificial intelligence, because there's a word intelligence and also the word artificial, we think about something that can think, that can produce some reasoning and help us reason or summarize content. But what we're talking about today is mainly generative AI. So AI which can generate something, like can generate an image, can generate a sound, can generate some text. And originally, when ChatGPT was released to the world in late 22, it would just produce text. So you would have a conversation with the ChatGPT, asking questions, and it would just give you some text back. And then people started using it to summarize content or to produce longer form content. But it was mainly to interact with text in and text out. And then at some point, some companies, for instance, for the audio, 11 Labs, that some people might know, started using this technique, but not to produce text, but to produce sounds, to produce voice. It already existed before that. Actually, I would even say that text to speech, so inputting some text and getting some audio generated, it pre-existed the release of ChatGPT. You already had Amazon or Google or Microsoft with their own text-to-speech engines, but it was not. You didn't have the vibe that you have today in the spoken or in the sung voices. So it was really quite rudimentary, I would say, before this wave of AI that we know today. But today it's possible to prompt an AI engine to generate voice from text in a very nice way with good vibes, good intonation, good intent. And it's also possible today on some platforms to generate songs with music and lyrics from a text prompt. So, and of course, people know that they can generate images from text, and also today you can even, and that's interesting for your listeners, probably, you can also use AI to upload an image and get a full description of what's on the image. So get a real, I would say, computer vision to describe what's on the image in full text. Before, I mean, computer vision was also quite rudimentary. It was what we call the OCR, so to recognize the characters on a PDF, and basically you would just upload a PDF, could be an invoice also, and it would extract the characters. That was the early days of computer vision. But now with computer vision, you can really upload an image and get a full, detailed, granular description of what's on the image. And if you can't read it, you can transform the description, the text description, into an audio description of what's on the image. So you basically upload an image, and you get an audio description of what's on the image. So that's a very good use case, also, I would say.
And that's a lot of how a lot of the things that many of our listeners who are blind or visually impaired use a lot of this kind of technology. Things like JAWS, the Job Access with Speech screen reader software, for example, will do that. So we're using it in a lot of different areas besides music and your AI jingle generation. But how do these voices and singers that you actually use to create, the voices and the jingles and things that you do, how do those voices actually work?
How are they created, you mean, in the first place?
Yeah, I guess we could start with that, and then
okay. So first of all, I'm not the developer of the models themselves. So I'm using what we call APIs, so connections to providers, a bunch of providers depending on the voices that I want to use. So they created the voices. Those are massive companies that invested a lot of money to do that, and basically they trained their language models to be able to produce voice. They trained them on tons, hours and hours and hours, millions of hours of audio recordings to create those voices. These days, you can even clone your own voice. So in the AI JINGLEMAKER, for instance, I used one of my providers to clone my own voice, originally trained with some French recordings, roughly 1 hour, I think, to get a good result. And then this voice, because of that provider by default provides multilingual rendering from the voices, then my voice can be used to generate spoken texts into Spanish, Italian, English, of course. I mean, 29 languages, even the languages I wouldn't speak or understand myself. It can be rendered with my own voice, and that was with 1 hour of voice. And now today, it's even you can even clone a voice from 15 seconds or 20 seconds of audio. Those companies, when you do that, theoretically, they have to ask you for obviously your permission, but also to make sure that you are the owner, the right holder of the voice. So you cannot just clone the voice of anyone as you wish. I mean, many people do it. Obviously, the internet being the internet, you've got people using AI to clone the voices of other people without their consent, but you shouldn't do that for obvious legal reasons. So we don't do that. I don't do that. So I have my voice in my system. I can also create from a text description a voice. So I created, for instance, some West Coast American DJ voices, quite typical, that were created from a text description. So saying, okay, I want a voice which sounds like this, with a brief description of the style, and then it would create a voice, and then people can use that voice. For instance, today I created a new page on the AI JINGLEMAKER. That's pretty funny. It's a soundboard, but with circus sounds, including the voice of a ringmaster that you can use to introduce a show. It's free, and that's all of the drops that are on that page. I can send you the link after that. They were created with an original voice of a ringmaster that I created from a text description. So in the morning today, I prompted the system to create a voice of a ringmaster with a specific type of style. And then now I have the voice, and the voice is in the AI Jingle Maker. So now in the list of voices that people can use in the Jingle Maker, I did it just before this recording, there is a voice called Ringmaster. And if you use it, it sounds like, the voice in The Greatest Showman introducing the show in the big top. So you can use ready-made voices that were trained by those systems, or you can create, or I can create and add to my system, to my app, voices by cloning voices or by describing the style of those voices. I mean, regarding the inner workings of how it is done, it's a lot of mathematics involved, weights and biases, as it's called, to train an AI model. So, but basically the idea is that you give it a lot of stuff, and then you expect an output, and you train the system until it gives you the kind of output that you are expecting. That's the way they do it. But they do it at a gigantic scale, and they do it with a lot of money involved to make it happen. So you wouldn't do that as an individual. It's impossible to afford that.
I could understand that. How does AI compare creatively to human musicians and producers and folks like that?
I would say, as you may have heard from all the examples that I shared, it's pretty good today, but you don't have obviously the same kind of art direction. So you cannot just say to the person on the other side in the studio, behind the glass window, could you do it again in a slightly different way? Because there's no one on the other side of the window. Which sometimes it's weird. Some people are asking me, could you ask the singer to do it again? But I said, there's no singer. It's an artificial intelligence black box. It's a one-shot rendering. So either it does it well or not, but you can do it again, but you can't really have a granular manipulation and art direction of the way it will render your prompt. So you have to do it again. So basically, I would say that it lacks the flexibility that you would have with a real human being. It also lacks the relationship that you have with a real human being and the talent of a real human being. I mean, you will always get a better result if you can afford singers and musicians in a studio. But of course, for many people, this AI system now offers the possibility to afford sung jingles or even spoken jingles that many people could not afford before, when you had to pay a session that could cost hundreds if not thousands of dollars to get one or two of those sung jingles. Now you can get something that sounds pretty amazing for a fraction of the cost. But it's a real discussion, of course, when we just speak about how does it compete with the real singers, the real musicians. What's the future of being a real singer, a real musician? And I can totally relate to that because I've produced musicians, and I used to be a traditional voiceover artist myself, so selling human sessions to human clients. So I perfectly know what it means.
Sure, so you've been on both sides of that fence.
Yeah, exactly, and it's changing. Many people say that you've got to move with the flow and adapt yourself to the evolution of technology. But of course, I can totally understand that it's a major issue for many artists and other creatives who don't want or don't have the skills to upskill themselves and use this kind of technology. So yeah, it's a real discussion at the moment, a real debate at the moment, of course.
I would imagine so. Now, can organizations or businesses fully customize the voices or style to match their brand, for example?
No, I would say no. It depends on my own capacity to when I create a custom song jingle, for instance. It depends on my own capacity to guide the AI, to prompt the AI, and try to get the best result out of it. There's a lot of, I would say, taste involved. It might be a big word, but you need to have a good sense of how to describe a voice, how to describe a music style. What is the type of music style that will render better when you create a custom song jingle? Because, I mean, practically when I create, for instance, custom song jingles, I'm not talking about the spoken jingles that you can create on your own on the self-serve app. But when I'm creating something custom, bespoke for a client, I'm using a bunch of different tools that are on the market. I might use Udio, I might use Suno, I might use Audimi. I mean, there are different tools on the market. But the devil is in the details, is in how you can use those tools to produce the expected output. Just to give you, for instance, an idea, 11 Labs, which is a well-known provider of text-to-speech, they launched something called the AI JINGLEMAKER. It's quite funny because I met the CEO a few weeks ago in London, and I told him, you stole my brand. I launched the AI JINGLEMAKER, but I could sell you the domain. I've got the .com, you don't. So it was a funny discussion between the two of us. But what they did, if you search 11 Labs AI JINGLEMAKER, what they did is basically a service where you would enter the name, the URL of your website, and it will create what they call a jingle from your website. It's free to use. People can try it. But what they call a jingle, it's actually a song. Already there's a difference between what we call a jingle and what we call a full-length song. So you wouldn't use a full-length song of 2 or 3 minutes and call it a jingle. It's just a sung promo, I would say, that you can create with this system. Right. If you want to create something that's called a jingle, you need to have a proper start, a proper ending, a proper build-up, risers and drops, and other components in this composition. And to achieve that, you have to know how to prompt the system, but also how to edit what comes out of the sessions. Because what I do usually is that I produce a lot of iterations, a lot of versions, and then I would edit them in FL Studio, the software I'm using to edit audio files. I would just cut to get the right start and cut to get the right ending, and add some reverb to have a proper resolution in the end, so that it opens up in the end. And all of those details, you don't just get them out of the box in the tools that are on the market to create AI songs, basically. So you can use tools that are theoretically they're available to create songs and create jingles with them, but you have to know how to do it. And so that's what I spent a lot of time perfecting, I would say, and that's why people are using the custom service.
Well, let's talk about your website just a little bit, because we haven't really spent much time on that. And of course, the website is AIJinglemaker.com for anybody who wants to go there. And not only do you do work for us here at Outlook Enrichment, but you also have a self-service type of setup as well, where people can go in and do their own thing and try some of this stuff if they dare to. Maybe you can describe the differences between, you're working for someone like me, for example, who just sends you weird emails that says, can you put this together, versus your self-service options.
Okay, so the self-service option, it's called the AI JingleMaker on AIJingleMaker.com. But for an American audience, for instance, they would say, it's not actually a jingle, it's what we call a sweeper or a liner in America. In Europe, a spoken jingle is also a jingle. So when someone speaks, not sings, it's also called a jingle. So that's why there might be some confusion in terms of wording. But what you can create yourself in the AI Jingle Maker is what you would call a liner or a sweeper in America. So basically, something to introduce a song or to introduce a show, or promote a DJ drop, something like that. And the way you would do it is that you type in your text, you pick one of the voices from the various providers that I'm using, you generate your AI voiceover, and then you pick an intro sound, a background sound, and an outro sound, and the system will mix them together, stitch them together automatically. So instead of you going to any software to stitch them together on your own, and you would have to find the intros, the backgrounds, the outros that work well together, the system does it automatically for you. So you've got your AI voiceover, you pick an intro, a background, an outro, you press generate jingle, and you get this thing done in a few seconds for you, and it's very cheap to do it. So that's what you can do on the platform on your own on the AI Jingle Maker. And I've got also some I would say shortcuts, like I've got one to create a Christmas jingle. It's even easier. You just put the name of your podcast or the name of your radio, and there is a set intro, a set background, a set outro. It's even a sung intro, I think, and a sung outro. And then in the middle, you've got the greetings customized with the name of your radio or of your podcast. So that's even easier. Just put one word, and it does it for you. And I've also launched a few extra features. One is called the Stutter Maker. So what it does is that if you take your AI voiceover and you pick some sections of it, you can repeat and do da 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 da. This kind of thing that you would have in a radio liner when you say radio, something like that.
Yes.
So you can basically choose a section, say I want it to be repeated once or twice or three times, and then very quickly also you can generate this more dynamic voiceover that you can then use with an intro, a background, and outro. I've got also something else called the voice changer, and that's a way to direct the AI. So you would record your own voice first with the rhythm that you want, but with your own voice, and then you pick one of the AI voices, and what it does is that it renders the text that you have spoken with the rhythm that you gave, the intent that you gave, but with the sound of the AI voice, with the AI voice. So it's a way to have full control on the pace, on the rhythm of the output. You start with your own voice, with your own intent, and then you choose one of the voices. It can be a female voice if you're a male, or the opposite, and it will create it with the AI. So that's also something else that's on the platform. And for the people who already have their own voiceovers, either recorded with a real human or with an AI voice but coming from elsewhere, you also have an option in the platform now where you can upload your own voiceovers, a real one or an AI one, and then blend it with an intro, a background, and outro. So you don't have necessarily to create the AI voiceovers on my platform. You can bring them from somewhere else, and it's a lifetime price for that. So you don't even pay extra credits. You just pay $59, and you get access to this tool forever and ever. Because I don't pay for the AI generations if you bring your own voiceovers, so I can afford to give a good price for a lifetime access to that feature. Otherwise, if you want to create your AI voiceovers with my platform, you buy packs of credits. I don't like subscriptions because I think we have too many subscriptions to pay. So it's just packs of credits. So you buy packs of credits and you use them whenever you want. They never expire. So there's no subscription on the platform.
Now, when it comes to credits and using them, one of the reasons that I like to use you is partly time. There's a number of reasons. Partly time. I don't have time to go in and try to do all this fun stuff and create things, but I've looked at the site and I see that there's lots of nice combo boxes that you can pick these different voices from. I mean, your site is really quite accessible for as complicated as it is and all that it offers. But for those of us who are visually impaired, we worry a lot about accessibility. Can we get to the things that you're talking about? I would say your site is very accessible. I don't know if you designed that in purposely or you're just happy I'm saying that.
Actually, I've got some announcement to make about that, because AI, not only, as I told you, I'm using AI to create audio or some other stuff, but I'm also using AI to code. And so the AI Jingle Maker itself, I think I said it in the beginning, I coded it start to finish with AI. So this product is kind of a super meta AI product because it was created with AI. The product itself was coded with AI, which is quite special. And 2 days ago, when I knew that I would have this podcast with you, I used one of my AI coding tools. It's a new plugin for VS Code called Tracer, Triycer, Tracer.ai. It's a new plugin that you can add to your coding application. And I asked it to review the main page of the self-serve app in terms of accessibility for visually impaired people. To see if there was anything that could be improved, and it gave me a few tips about things that could be improved, like the automatic tab navigation, where you would, use the tab navigation and go from one section to the other, and it would just give you the audio description of what it is. I mean, ARIA also, and things like that. And I didn't want to put into production this version because I didn't know if the code hadn't been changed for some other key features. But I tried it on another URL, so it might be interesting for people that want to test it to see if it's perfectly optimized for visually impaired people. It's if you go to aijinglemake.com/new-accessible, so /new-accessible. You will have exactly the same. So it's exactly the same as /new, where you have the main self-serve app, but it's a bit more optimized even for visually impaired people. I mean, I can see. So for me, I can't really notice the difference. But I tried it with the audio description of my Mac, and I could get the audio description of the buttons in a more explicit way than on the main version. So on /new, it's already, as you said, by default pretty good in terms of accessibility. But I went the extra mile and I created /new-accessible, and there I think it's even better. But I will let your listeners test it and tell me if it's even better. So yeah.
And for that matter, I'll test it and tell you.
Yeah. So it's /new-accessible. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that is big news. That's big news for those of us in the accessibility community, certainly. And I'm so glad you shared it. You're always doing innovative things. And of course, you've done a lot for us. I guess that does lead to the question, how can organizations like Outlook Enrichment benefit from using your services?
They can go on the website and browse the website, and there are two main pages. As we said, one is /new, where you've got the main self-serve app, or /new-accessible if you want to try it in a more accessible version even. And there's one called /sung jingles, where you've got all those show reels and demos of custom sung jingles. That's where you went to place an order for the sung jingles. So that's basically the two main pages. But there's a welcome page when you land on the service with different paths where you can pick between different options. There are new services now that were launched, as I said, the stutter generator, the voice changer. There's also something called the audiogram maker, where you can create kind of a video with a moving sound wave to share your creations as little MPEG-4 video. There's another thing called the audio canvas also. And my new initiative is to create free pages, mainly also to try to attract some other types of traffic. There's one called the audio analyzer, free audio trimmer to trim an audio, and now 2 new pages, free DJ drops, so /free DJ drops, where you can have DJ drops that you can use in your party or something like that. And there's one now with drops of ringmaster since this morning. So a lot of different pages that you can go and see. And for any question, my email is fred@aijinglemaker.com. So fred@aijinglemaker.com. That's how you can reach me.
Well, that is fantastic, and I will say that you respond. In fact, I know one of our questions that I have here on my list to ask you is, if Outlook, for example, uses you to create something for them, what is the response time, and what is that process like if we use you, and we, maybe I should be more specific, if we aren't using the self-serve things and we're just working with you directly, how does that process work?
So you can first reach out via email, fred@aijinglemaker.com. I will guide you through. But if you go, for instance, on /SungJingles, on the SungJingles section of the website, you can have a look and listen to all of the demos and read there the description of the service. And if you place an order, you have different packs. You've got the 1 jingle pack, the 5 jingle pack, and the 40+ jingle pack, which we call the full imaging pack. And if you place an order, I usually tend to deliver it within 24 hours. So that's it, basically. You
did it. You did it with us, my friend. I mean, like I was telling you earlier before we went on air, you were really an answer to prayer for me, because I tried some of those other jingle companies that you talked about earlier, and they, huge, long waiting lists and lots of money and all that kind of thing, and they were in no hurry to help us. And here you were writing me back, and within that 24-hour period, we had our first set of Outlook on Air jingles, if you will, and that's what we call them here, the things you're doing for us.
No, that's nice to hear, but I think it's an issue on the internet. Usually you don't know who you're talking to, and some people can be not responsive enough, I would say. But for me it's a priority to answer the first email. I usually answer it within a few hours, and then delivery usually within 24 hours, except if, I don't know, I'm traveling or something like that. But it's usually within 24 hours.
Do you see AI helping the whole accessibility community globally? I can help you with this in that more and more on YouTube, for example, I am running across videos where the scripts are probably in many cases so boring, people don't want to do them themselves, and they don't have to now. They can use AI to describe things and that sort of thing. How do you see AI helping folks with accessibility down the road?
I guess that a lot of the way that, for instance, visually impaired people have been using digital technology has been mainly to transform into audio text or descriptions of images, but it was for a long time not very nice to listen to. Like, it was a bit like the voice of Stephen Hawking, if you want, all the time coming out of your computer. But now you can really have an amazing rendering of the voice. So I would say that for the traditional use cases already, AI is improving the experience of how you enjoy the audio rendering. Also, the latency is improving. By that I mean the time that it takes to get the results. So I could envision a moment where you would be able, thanks to AI, to experience the outside world in a real-time manner. So you would basically have an audio version of your impaired vision in real time, which is quite amazing. So you would just move around, and you would have some description of what you want to experience or know more about. Because the latency is really going down. It's almost real time now. So yeah, I think. I mean, I'm not myself visually impaired, so I don't know what are your main challenges, and how you see also the technology evolving. I could revert the question and ask you: have you seen many improvements, or what is still missing from your perspective?
I would say the biggest thing that is still missing is that you can often tell that it is AI that is producing your spoken word, if you will, and it a lot of times will make mistakes and mispronounce pretty common things in many cases that shouldn't really be mispronounced. And I know that's just something that's going to take time to work out. That would be my response to that.
And are you using audio description? I would say beyond the digital world. So, are you using audio description for stuff that you come across in the street, for instance, or?
Not so much that, but more on phones. If you go, big use in television, for example, people that watch television or listen to the TV, that kind of thing. If that's what they do, YouTube videos have a lot of it. Areas like that is at least at this point in time is pretty much where this technology is at this stage.
I also heard about someone the other day who was doing even before audio descriptions of theater plays, so people going to the theater and being helped via some earpiece to understand what's going on the stage when people are not speaking. So a description. I guess that with AI, you can democratize this type of service even beyond the big shows that can afford it. For instance, you could have some sort of AI assistant that you can turn on even at a place where you don't have anyone on duty to do an audio description of a show, provided that there was some camera or something watching, looking, filming the play, that you could have the AI doing the audio description, for instance. That would be something possible, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of time before all of this gets better and even more widely used. Some of the good uses of AI that are out there, and so I think we just have to be patient and wait and see where that all goes.
And I would say for anyone who is developing applications, for instance, they could just replicate what I did yesterday that we talked about for this new Dash Accessible page. You can now use AI assistants to ask them to review your website and to improve them from an accessibility point of view. So you don't have to just figure it out on your own. You can basically prompt your AI assistant and say, okay, I've got this application that I created maybe a few years ago. I want to improve it from an accessibility perspective. How would you do that? And then you can delegate the report, so the review from the AI assistants, to an AI agent who will actually do everything that needs to be done to improve your applications. That's also a very useful use case of AI, using AI to improve the accessibility of the tools on the web.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And good point. Very good point. Well said. What is probably your most surprising or memorable project that you've ever worked on with all this technology?
In audio or even beyond audio?
Yeah, even beyond audio, maybe the neatest thing that you've ever done.
That's a good question.
I've
done so many things, but I do a lot of for instance, website revamps. Improving the quality of a website, moving away sometimes from WordPress and recreating from scratch a website to add new tools and new sections on a website. And it's quite amazing each time when I do it, how fast I can do it using AI. Taking the content from the original website, referencing some style that I want to use, and using the right prompting approach, I can move away from an old website and revamp it in a few hours, something that would have required weeks of work before. So that's a very neat use of AI in AI-assisted coding. And at the moment, I'm even involved in more sophisticated use cases of AI, like using AI to create customized quotes, product offerings, but based on a lot of what we call unstructured data. So taking a lot of unstructured data, like data that we have about the preferences of a customer, about products, about all kinds of sources of data, and from that unstructured data that doesn't sit in a table in a database, but it's in a loose format, we can create customized quotes for customers using that approach. So I'm using a lot of AI to process unstructured data and create things with that. That's an amazing use case of AI. And in the audio, I love sound design. So beyond creating short jingles for you or other people, I love to use AI to create more longer soundscapes, like trying to create some kind of atmosphere about for an audiobook or things like that. So that's also really, really nice to use AI for that, because you can create the sound effects, you can create the voices, you can create the music, and you can bring all of that together and create something that's really amazing in terms of production. And now you can mix it with video also, so it can be something like really cinematic. I mean, it's only the beginning. It's quite exciting, everything you can do with AI.
Where do you see AI going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I hope it won't replace us completely. Joking. I mean, that's a there will be an impact on work, on jobs. Definitely, you have to find a new way to be relevant. I would say on the positive side that it can help you to stay relevant or to find a new type of relevance. For instance, as I told your listeners at the beginning of the show, I'm 51, and I found a new form of relevance for me using AI assisted coding to basically add a new type of expertise to my work. Without AI, I would be less relevant than I am today, probably. So it's not just killing jobs; it can also add some relevance to your life, even at a later stage in your life. So when you're not 20 or 25. So I think it's a good point. I think it would be everywhere. It would be in the digital realm. It would be in the physical world. Robots would be something that a lot of people will be using in the future. I'm pretty sure about that. We have to find a way to coexist and interact and keep the control on all those things. And that's the challenge, because as many people say, how often do you see something that is more intelligent than you being, how often can you control, something that would be more intelligent than you are? And that would be the challenge, because at the moment it's still there in the box, and you can still unplug the box if you want, if there's any issue. But at some point it could replicate itself. At some point it could be autonomous, and we don't know. It's totally uncharted territory at that time. how will we be able to keep the control on this technology when it's really more intelligent than we are? That's an open debate also, I guess.
If you could pick, I guess this would kind of fall into the category of fun questions. If you could create a jingle for absolutely any major brand or cause at all, what would that cause or major brand be? What would you want to do something for?
Okay, so the question is, what is my favorite brand, maybe, and then, or my favorite cause. I mean, if I could create a jingle that would automatically make people nice to each other, like, you know, by some kind of subliminal way, something that would be in the song that would make people nice to each other, not being nasty to each other, I would create that jingle and I would play it 24 hours a day. I would do that. So it's not a brand, it's not a code, it's just like a magical jingle that would, you know, play a subliminal sound in your ears and make you nice. And yeah, so because I guess, yeah, that's what we want. We just want to be nice to each other, and that's the only thing we need, I guess.
Very true, but I never would have come up with that answer. I think that's pretty awesome. I'm going to get ready to kind of wrap things up here because I think we've taken a lot of your very valuable time, which I appreciate you spending with us so much. I've been dying to do this for ages.
That's so nice.
But I do have one other fun question. What is the funniest or most unusual request that you've ever received, or it says here your AI has ever received? It's the funniest thing that you can think of that you maybe put together.
I've received a few requests to create jingles for brands, for small brands or products and services, so not necessarily for a podcast or a radio station. And there was one that was very nice to create. I think it was a vodka brand, but vodka with honey. You know, like honey, the product. And so I created some kind of a sexy sound with the honey and the vodka, and then the sound of the ice cubes, you know, in the cocktail glass. The sound of ice in a glass, and the sound of the bees for the honey, and so it was a sound design around the honey and vodka for this brand. That was a funny one. There was another one called Irish on Air. I think it was for a brand in Ireland of air conditioning systems. With an Irish folk music, and it rendered really nicely. I really like that one. There's a lot of jingles that I create for brands where I can even put more creativity because I have to translate the concept into some form of soundscape, and it can become really funny. I would say that's the type of requests that are sometimes funny to create. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well, you do a wonderful job of doing all of that, and you've created some wonderful. They're not necessarily funny. In fact, they're very functional, and we like them. The wonderful jingles that you have created for Outlook Enrichment. And we use them quite often. You hear them in a lot of our podcasts. And now we finally got to meet the person that actually does all this work for us. And again, I take the lazy way out. I write him at his wonderful email address, fred@aijinglemaker.com. I send him notes, and then he tries to make sense of them. And all of a sudden, within a 24-hour period, we get these wonderful jingles back that you folks get to hear throughout our podcast. So, again, Fred, we can't thank you enough for what you do, and I certainly can't thank you enough for all the ways you help me.
Appreciate it. Really nice to hear the real people behind the screen, because it can feel lonely sometimes where you just exchange emails. So it's very nice to meet you in person. I mean, even if it's through Zoom.
Keeping you informed with all things Outlook on air.
And right there is a great example of Fred and the magic he performs every time he does his work for us. One of the things that Fred was talking about in his very information-filled interview was using AI to help us get around. It was one of the many things that he mentioned when he was talking about ways that we can use AI as blind and visually impaired people. And of course, that is the case, especially if you include all the GPS apps and the meta glasses and things like that. So I hope everybody learned something from that interview, and I certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. As Fred will tell you, I'm one of his biggest fans. Another thing that Fred did talk about in the interview was how other websites differ from his, in that many other websites will create little songs rather than actual jingles. The thing that sets Fred apart is that he knows what broadcasters and podcasters and commercial jingle creators and people like us want when it comes to actual jingles, whereas other websites such as Refusion.com, or as it's now called, Producer.ai, those kind of sites tend to create songs rather than jingles. Now, some of them can be used as jingles, or you can use parts of them for jingles, but when it comes to actual creation, they actually end up creating little songs more than they do jingles. Here's a sample of one of those that I threw together using Refusion.com, and I think you'll get a kick out of it, and I guess you could almost call it a jingle as it turned out, and we can certainly break it apart and make it into one, but this is what it sounded like anyway.
This is the place where you want to be, to hear the very latest about our company. Blind people gather here every day to hear our latest podcast and what we have to say. Some of you probably don't even care, but the name of our podcast is Outlook on Air. Outlook on Air. Outlook on Air. Outlook on Air.
Well, I didn't spend a whole lot of time putting that whole thing together. In fact, I just put the words that I wanted it to say into a text field. This Refusion.com website is very accessible, as I discovered, and I was able to pick the genre, country, and so on and so forth, and it just all kind of came together. And as I say, I didn't spend a lot of time really thinking it all out, just a little thing about our podcast, and that's what you got. We put links that Fred provided us with on our website. If you check us out on the web, either at our Podbean website, Spotify, YouTube, any of the places where you'll find us streaming. Apple Podcasts, that's the one I always forget, and that's probably one of the more important ones. But anyway, we have links in the show notes and so forth so that you can hear a lot of the work that Fred does. You can also, of course, take advantage of his accessibility site that he talked about. That's AIJINGLEMAKER.com/new-accessible. So we want to check that out. And if you do give him positive feedback, be kind, be nice, tell him what you feel does or doesn't work, and so on and so forth. He's busily working to make it as accessible as physically possible, as you heard. Well, folks, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this edition of Outlook on Air, but we certainly hope you've enjoyed the program. We hope to see you back here again for another edition of Outlook on Air. And if you'd like more information about Outlook Enrichment, or anything Outlook for that matter, make sure you visit our website at www.outlooken.org. That's www.outlooken.org. Or you can always call us for more information or to schedule any kind of an appointment at area code 531-365-5051. That's area code 531-365-5051. And don't forget to subscribe to our monthly newsletter so that you can find out when the next podcast is available. And we hope to see you then on the next edition of Outlook on Air.